Hi everyone and welcome. Today, instead of my usual astrology update, I have chosen to do a divine guidance where I ask the divine to send us clarity and a little bit of soul wisdom for us to be able to process all of these emotions, these feelings, realizations that we're feeling in the present moment, still under the very heavy influence of Monday's or Tuesday's Scorpio Super Full Moon, which was like an emotional bomb detonating. Things that it has revealed are definitely not easy to process, regardless if they source from the outside, from our relationships, from other people, from the news, from anything is possible here, or if they're like inner realizations, epiphanies, or a very strong inner restlessness where we just can't even figure out what's wrong with us. A lot of people have reached out that this energy hit them extremely hard in a rather unexpected manner, because even if, let's say, you're an astrologer and you know how to interpret these energies, and you can think of 10 million ways of how this can play out, even the most subtle, even the most philosophical ways, the sheer feeling of it, well, that is a mystery until you get there and feel it. So let's get back to our reading. The first row represents how this Scorpio full moon might have affected certain people. Now, of course, this reading is based on synchronicity, so just take in what resonates, what applies to your situation, and simply discard the rest. It is perfectly possible that nothing will resonate for you. Maybe you're one of those very lucky people who actually received the most positive and blissful side of this energy. In which case, you need no guidance because you see the blessing alive, active in your life, and that is all you need. Look no further than what your life reflects. But for other people, well, first of all, the Eight of Swords. This is where some people are really triggered mentally. This means fears, this means doubts, insecurities, anxiety. But this is where it's not pure psychological filth, but it is actually the truth. It is actually reality. It is actually the valid, real, down-to-earth situation that you are dealing with. And this is how you look at your life without very much subjectivism, faith, optimism, divine guidance, everything that has to do with spirit, everything that has to do with positive psychology. Basically helps us alchemize our situations, but there are certain times in life, and there are certain times when the karmic forces invite us to take a deep look at how our situations are without the influence of anything else. Just the sheer, let's say, tactical situation that we're in. So of course this Eight of Swords energy is not very pleasant, because it means that we are really caught up. We don't have that many choices. It doesn't matter what we did psychologically. For example, if you want to advance with your career, or you want to do something more, something different within your job, within the company that you work for, then this Scorpio full moon might have shown you that it really isn't a matter of who is more worthy, who deserves, promotion, who deserves to be supported more, but it's a matter of friendships and alliances, and if you're not friends with the right people, then you can have all the faith you want in the world because you still have to go through other means. But of course, this is just an example. It doesn't have to mean that this is your exact precise situation. It can be the same like in someone's career, for example. Well, it doesn't really matter how talented you are, how experienced, skilled, how learned you are, how much you sacrificed to get where you are, there will always be imposters, amateurs who have a lot of influence, who have friends in high places, who know the tricks of the trade, who will always get ahead of you like almost instantly, and there is nothing you can do about that. So this Eight of Swords is like a really bitter pill for all of us. It reflects all the things that we do not have power over. It reflects all the things that spirituality, faith, psychological strength and fortitude, personal ambition, anything that has to do with someone's power can change in any way, shape or form. So it just reflects for some people the tactical position that they're in. If life is like a chessboard, well, even if you're not in a checkmate situation, until you get into a position of superiority, a position where you can make much more progress, way better moves than what is possible right now, well, it will take some time. So of course, this is really hard to accept, this is hard to process, and this will ultimately cause an emotional setback, and it might trigger certain really old feelings of being totally lost, of not being able to enjoy your freedom, not being able to just be yourself, either socially, professionally, within all of your friendships and relationship. For example, maybe most of your friends or social connections have it much easier than you, and you have to put extra effort to just get where they are, and certain things which are so easy and natural for them mean extra sacrifice for you, and this energy builds up after some time. This can cause a lot of frustration, this can cause, severe doubts, because the card that clarifies the Eight of Swords is the Judgment reversed. So it means that, is your self-worth, is everything that you think about yourself, everything that you feel for yourself, for example, self-love, all the work that you have done psychologically, in other words, how you judged yourself, the verdict that you have reached, regarding your situation, your position in life, your goals, dreams, etc. Was that a product of your wishful thinking, imagination, or is that actually real? And even if other people like friends, family, your life partner, children, the closest people to you, and it can also represent like total strangers, especially if you're working with people, if you have clients, customers, etc., and naturally they give you feedback. You might have had so much positive feedback, and it really, really made you grow, it made you evolve, it made you basically open up like a flower. So that gave you a lot of strength, and that gave you the courage, that gave you the inner power to really, really advance with your plans, to do things which normally you wouldn't have done. And from a certain perspective, it was a time of great success. It was a time when you truly broke the cycle, when you truly stepped out of your comfort zone. And emotionally and spiritually and psychologically, all of this was absolutely wonderful. And it really, really was a breakthrough for you personally. But if you look at your situation just tactically, with just the coldness of ration and logic, putting numbers together, facts together, you might think right now, is your situation that much different? Did you actually change anything? Or was it just the illusion of change? And this is where the divine would like to tell you that on one hand, you're absolutely right. Maybe from a strictly tactical perspective, your position, your current situation is not like having climbed Mount Everest. But this is also where it invites you to reverse that judgment and look at a different perspective of the same situation, where you are now, the top of that symbolic Mount Everest. It's much, much, much closer than the base of the mountain. And at the same time, if during that time when you really, really believed in yourself, when you invested all your strength into yourself, self-love, understanding, embracing the encouragement of all the other people who supported you, if during that time you would have had this exact mindset that the Scorpio Full Moon revealed to you, just where exactly you are tactically, you would have never ever made the journey, because you would have thought to yourself, well, this effort is so unfair, and it would be so vain, it would be so illogical for me to make this journey and all the sacrifices and all that emotional and psychological fuel, that without much doubt you would have stayed at the very base of the mountain, not taking any step further. And imagine of just how much experience, and by this I don't mean the loser's experience, exactly the opposite, the winner's experience, all the things that you have accomplished, all the times when you overcame your limitations, like certain limitations which, when you were a child were almost impossible for you to even conceive of overcoming. Certain conditionings due to school and education and upbringing, etc. So that is massive progress. That is something that has already turned your life around, turned everything around. And all the good things, all the steps, all the efforts to climb that mountain were definitely not in vain. And that is exactly why the last card for you guys is the universe, as in the world card. Energy, especially invested energy, well, it has to produce something. It has to go somewhere. It cannot be lost at all, ever, in any way we look at it. Neither psychologically, neither spiritually, neither physically. So whatever you have done is still there, and it is still growing, it is still evolving, it is still holding your future together as a support column, and also the foundations for your future that you have already laid and you have invested so much effort and sacrifice into. Well, nothing can undo that. So basically, through the world card, the universe almost guarantees you, promises you, that you will definitely reach the top of the mountain. You will definitely get what you worked for. But this moment of truth, by allowing your mind, your rationality, the coldness of logic to remind you of this Eight of Swords, how unfair life is, how unfair every single industry, every single area of life is. Well, this isn't really supposed to hurt you. This isn't really supposed to extinguish your sparks of passion, but quite the contrary, to show you just how strong you were, and all your efforts weren't vain, because without that psychological fuel that you kept up pumping in yourself, investing in yourself, the self-love, and finally allowing your self-worth to shine through, without that, this Eight of Swords would have defeated you at the very first steps you took at climbing that mountain alone. So it actually congratulates you. It actually wants you to see your strength, to see your resilience, to see everything that you withstood. And actually, even when your situation maybe a few years ago was impossible, You made the impossible possible. So that Eight of Swords, feeling trapped, feeling bound, feeling optionless, feeling like your choices, etc., are dictated by things which don't really depend on you. That has no power over you anymore. It is simply not enough to stop you in your tracks, but ignoring it, pretending like it's not there, like things have changed in the world, let's say, in an industry, customs, traditions, gatekeepers, requirements, etc., pretending that that has already changed. Now that would be a lie, that would be illusion, that would be like wishful thinking, because that doesn't change overnight. That takes a lot to change. And it is not your role, not your duty to change anything, but basically your role is like an acrobat to avoid it, to entangle yourself from the spider's web. And this actually reminds me of a really great example where this might be a little bit esoteric, this might have to do with energy, but still, there is a subspecies of the tiger butterfly, which as a caterpillar, it can only consume the leaves of a very poisonous tree, and the tree, to protect itself from any predators, any, insects who want to consume it, well, it pumps poisonous sap into the veins in the leaves. Now when this tiger butterfly is a caterpillar, it has a very, very tough life, because on one hand it can only eat that, but it's pure poison. So before it can consume parts of the leaf, it has to sever the veins so that the tree cannot pump the sap anymore, then wait until a little bit of that sap drains and only eat it afterwards. But naturally it poisons itself and it's in agony, it's in total agony most of its caterpillar phase, until it reaches maturization when, it's already immune and it has no problems at all. But the good part of this story is after it gets into the cocoon and the butterfly emerges, etc. Now let's say the butterfly accidentally gets caught in a spider web. The spider immediately cuts the butterfly free, because it knows that even touching it means certain death, because, since the caterpillar consumed that poison all of its life, the butterfly is extremely poisonous to any predator. And this is the same with certain kind of hardships, with failures, with having to permanently battle rigid or unfair rules and regulations within an industry, or whatever this Eight of Swords mean for you, society, social circle, whatever prevents you from advancing with your plans. The more times you're faced throughout your life with everything that might prevent your freedom, might get you entangled, etc., well, your energy can learn to adapt to it until you kind of become someone parallel, as in regardless of how an industry is, a society is, it will no longer pose an obstacle for you, it will no longer hinder you, it will no longer prevent you from advancing or doing whatever it is that you want. Because basically the collective energy of whatever that is, anything in existence, also has an energetic imprint. And that is, let's say, semi-conscious. So it will know who exactly you are and how poisonous you are symbolically, because you processed all of those bad past experiences, all of the injustice, all of the setback, etc. So it will just set you free, it will just eject you from its traps, from its limitations, and just let you do whatever it is that you want. And this is also a very valid symbolism of the World card. When you've worked so much karmically nothing will want to prevent you anymore. So basically the universe's message is, if this Eight of Swords is the spider web and you're entangled once again in it, don't really struggle, don't really panic, don't really fear, because the spider itself will come and free you and will leave you totally unharmed. It is just a question of time. Now for other people, it's not really the Eight of Swords, but it's more about the Justice card. And this is really heavy because sometimes the Justice card represents relationships, partnerships, or a choice that you have already made, something that you have already chosen, a decision that you've already made, and chances are perhaps even legally, or it's binding already in one way or another. So the light of this Scorpionic full moon has you really question the choices of the recent past, or perhaps your partnerships. Perhaps, do you want to be in this relationship or not? A relationship which perhaps maybe a year ago seemed like so blissful, like a heavenly blessing, and all of a sudden you're not sure. And don't get me wrong, this isn't toxic, this isn't the doom and gloom and drama and betrayal and all of that. It is simply the coldness of logic. Are you compatible really? Do you have the same future goals? Do you have the same desires? Do you have the same mindset? Do you have the same life philosophies and principles? Can you truly build a future together? Or if it's not a partnership, if it's a choice that you have made, perhaps a choice where you have already invested something like money, effort, time into, you might question it. Is this really gonna work? Is this truly what I want to do in the future? Is this truly who I am? And the Justice card means pros and cons are equal to each other. For example, it means that it wasn't a wrong choice because, for example, whatever it is that you have chosen, it was possible, it's viable, you're capable, you have everything that you need, you can make it work. There is no inner impediment and perhaps neither outer impediment why it shouldn't really work out for you or why it should be a bad choice. But the cons are also equally, let's say, authentic. Maybe you're tired. Maybe your soul just doesn't want to do anything anymore. Maybe you have made a very important decision professionally and you're in the middle of doing that. And even though everything is working okay, even though things are going the right way, all of a sudden you realize, but you feel alone. What about your love life? What about partnership? Is this what you truly be wanting to live in the years to come? You might be as successful as imaginable as a professional or with your business. Let's say even if you're an artist, you may be number one. You may reach the very highs of your success, and yet all of a sudden, without too much warning, you may feel, but you actually desire a simple life. You want peace, you want quiet, you want someone to love, you want someone to love you back as well. But of course, all of these are just examples. It doesn't have to be the specifics of your situation. Just adapt the symbolism of this Justice card. For other people, it's even simpler than that. Maybe this justice is a court case, papers, something legal that you have initiated, and you were so sure that whatever it is, it's gonna be ready just in time for you to move, to make a move or a choice or etc. Get something that you need out of it, or just a closure, for example, and you might have received news that you have to wait more, that it's not as easy as you thought, there are more requirements, you have to complete more paperwork or go to a professional, etc. Or let's say suddenly the legislation changes, so you have to redo everything again. And it doesn't really matter what the specifics of your situation is. What matters more is that you feel what is actually going on. Why are you feeling like this? Has fate actually stopped in its tracks, the wheel of fortune reversed? Is this some kind of misfortune? Is this some kind of divine guidance in the negative sense that it wants to stop you, prevent you? Is this some kind of bad karma? Or let's say, is changing your mind, changing your feelings, a harm that you do to another person or any kind of situation, especially if you're in a relationship, and you're not so sure about the future anymore? So these feelings might really be unsettling and troubling you. This is where the guidance of the universe is a little bit almost ironic, so to speak, because through this wheel of fortune, it tells you that sometimes the devil is in the details. You can always change everything and anything that you have total power over. This nine of coins. But when you have no power, no influence over certain matters, well, that means that those are fated, exactly the wheel of fortune, in reverse position. So regardless if it's a relationship, regardless if it's a choice, regardless of what nature that Justice card represents for you, if you have no power to change that right now, well, it means that whatever you chose or whatever has happened was fated. And even if you're in doubts right now, going with the flow and just allowing things to unfold their own natural way is definitely going to guide you to a resolution, to a conclusion. And chances are for most people, that resolution and conclusion is the nine of coins. So your position of power. And just because you cannot see how things will, let's say, work out in the best way possible, or if, let's say, it was a genuine error of judgment, how the universe is going to send you a B option, how to get you out of the tight situation, well, that doesn't mean that it's not already planned and fated. If you getting sucked up in this was fated, then the resolution is also fated. And it is really, really not working against you, even if it feels like that right now in the present moment, that wheel of fortune reversed. But think about it. Everything that is going on in the world, so very many people are full of fear, full of paranoia. Their futures, everything that they have worked for all their lives, crumbled in a second. And they're in misery, pain, poverty. They lost their businesses. They lost everything that they ever had. Well, even though it has nothing to do with you personally, that's still an energy that is still in the collective consciousness. So of course you feel that in an indirect way as well. Of course it triggers you. Of course it, hits you like a lightning bolt, like a continuous influence of insecurity, uncertainty, and fear, when basically most of the world has the wheel of fortune reversed. Even if you personally are not in that group, not influenced by it, you might still feel the same thing. You might not really be able to see the clarity of your situation, and you shouldn't even, because this is part of the deal. You could not possibly, regardless of what you do, be immune to this. So just be understanding, just be patient with yourself. And naturally, for those of you who are not stuck, who do have a choice, who do have power over, regardless of what this Justice card means, you can change your mind, you can undo it, you can do whatever it is in your power to transform a choice that you have already made. But all you need to do is just be a little bit patient before you do anything, because the message for you is the same. Think about what part of what you're feeling is actually yours and what part is just the collective uncertainty, fear, and depths of despair. Can you truly, authentically be in tune with your future when for a lot of people there is no future anymore? And last but not least, for other people, this Scorpionic full moon really hit an emotional nerve ending, because the Three of Cups reverse represents disappointment or disillusioning or feeling totally disconnected with either a friend that you really believed in, or a group of friends, or someone who was really dear to your heart, but chances are not a romantic relationship. Or if you thought it was gonna turn into a romantic relationship, maybe you were friend-zoned, or vice versa, you friend-zoned someone. Because this disappointment can also mean that you thought that they wanted your friendship, but in truth they wanted your romantic love. Even if you'd made it clear from the beginning that you do not want that. Now, what's really complicated about this situation is that there isn't anything that this person or group of friends or whatever this Three of Cups represents, they haven't done anything wrong. They haven't offended you. They haven't hurt you with anything. Maybe a gesture of theirs, something they said, something they expressed, either due to a conversation or simply you just listening in the most honest way possible to your own feelings. You came to the conclusion that even if you love them dearly, you appreciate them, you wish nothing but the best, and you truly consider them as friends, your value systems are so different, or maybe your level of emotional maturity and your life experiences are so much more vaster and, let's say, crystallized than theirs, that there is a strong incompatibility between you and this person or group of people. And even though this might really hurt you, or you might think about this as, what kind of friend are you if you are not able to reciprocate their honest feelings, their honest friendship, or whatever this is. Yet the universe is telling you that this happened for a very specific reason. It was meant to fortify inside of you a life lesson that you have already learned so very many times in the past, the Strength card. And that is when someone is not on your level, regardless from which perspective, when someone just doesn't understand you to the very depths, even if they are full of good intent, even if they want to try it with all their hearts, well, that means that you don't really belong together, you don't really belong in the same group. And it doesn't mean that you have to terminate this friendship. It doesn't mean that you have to go to extreme measures. It just means that accept it for what it truly is, that Three of Swords reverse. Don't let it turn into a heartache. Don't let it turn into disappointment. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge the other person. Just simply do not have any expectation to be understood and to be seen as who and what you truly are. Because this isn't a matter of if they want it or not, because they obviously want it. They just can't. So it is what it is. And even if it's like a karmic friendship, a karmic relationship, a karmic connection, you could have so very many things in common, yet there might be something that just prevents this relationship from turning into an extremely strong bond. But that is absolutely fine. That means nothing negative. That doesn't mean any drama. It simply means the raw truth. Don't think that you're not alone. And this sounds so bad, I know. Because no one ever wants to reach this conclusion, this revelation that in fact you're alone. And naturally, you are not alone in the sense that if this group of people or if this person really loves you, and of course they wish nothing but the best for you, and vice versa, and the love is really, really there from both sides, yet that doesn't mean that you're not alone. And even vice versa, in that matter where you have different, let's say, worldviews or different traits of personality, or whatever this big difference between the two of you is, well, that other person is also alone. Because you cannot pretend to be compatible in something that you're actually not. But the bright side of this is, if you reach the conclusion that right now you're alone, that means that who you're looking for, may it be a friend, someone to understand you, an ally, anyone that would fit in the energy of this Three of Cups, is still out there in the world, and you will find them, of course. But in order for you to find them, you must not live in the illusion that you already have someone in your life to fill that specific role, to fill that void in your heart. So even if this is a little bit sweet and sour, it's still for your greatest good, so don't let this turn into anything more than it should be. So this concludes today's guidance. I really hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all your support, all your guidance, all your beautiful and heartwarming comments. If you'd like to support my channel, you can find the link to my PayPal in the description below. Thank you so much again for listening. Until next time, bye for now.